This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. For too long, women's serious midlife health issues have been trivialized, ignored, and met with a just deal with it attitude. Many of us have been made to feel ashamed or forgotten. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But here's the powerful truth. It's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI is not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic, founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. What sets MIDI apart? We are the only women's telehealth brand covered by major insurance companies, making high-quality expert care accessible and affordable. Our clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. We offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions, from hormonal therapies and weight loss protocols to lifestyle coaching and preventative health guidance. This isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will join our patients who feel seen, heard, and prioritized. You will find that our mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the health care they deserve. Because we believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on the History Shorts. If you've ever heard the story of Valley Forge, you probably think you know the coldest, hungriest winter of the American Revolution. But what if I told you that it wasn't Valley Forge? What if the worst winter George Washington's army ever faced, the one that nearly broke the Revolution, came 2 years earlier in Morristown, New Jersey? By 1779, the war had dragged on for 4 long years. The dream of independence felt quite distant, fragile, and cold, very cold. We will finish with the history brief and another story from Paul F. Buller Jr. and John George's They Never Said It. A quick word from our sponsors.
All right, guys, so check this out. Have you ever heard of Goldbelly? Okay, so it's this amazing site where you can order the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the country, and they will ship it straight to your door. That's right, these guys will ship you Philly cheesesteaks from Jim's or Pat's in Philly, buffalo wings from the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, and even Kansas City's most legendary barbecue. So, if you're looking to host an epic Super Bowl party, go to goldbelly.com and get free shipping and 20% off your first order with promo code GAMEDAY.
This day in history. On January 14, 1784, the Continental Congress ratified the Treaty of Paris, officially ending the American Revolutionary War. On January 14, 1969, British musician David Bowie recorded Space Oddity, a song inspired by the space race that helped launch his career and reflected a world captivated by exploration beyond Earth. Story of the day. The winter of 1779-1780 remains by every account one of the harshest in North American history. Snow fell for weeks on end. The Hudson River froze solid enough for soldiers to march across it. Temperatures in New Jersey plunged so low that livestock perished and wagons shattered trying to move through the ice. When George Washington chose Morristown, New Jersey for his winter headquarters, it was for good reason. Nestled in the Watchung Mountains, the town's hills offered natural defense and proximity to supply lines from Philadelphia and the Hudson. But no amount of strategy could prepare the army for what was to come. By December 1779, over 10,000 soldiers trudged into Morristown. They were exhausted and wearing uniforms that had long since turned to rags. Washington established his headquarters at a home of Jacob Ford Jr., while his men camped at a place called Jockey Hollow, a stretch of forested hills that would soon become a frozen village of misery. And I'm not trying to sound poetic. I live 2 miles away from Jockey Hollow, and I've been there when it's pretty cold. I can't even imagine what it was like in 1779. In that unforgiving terrain, Washington's men began to build their huts, 12 by 16 feet, log walls chinked with mud, and the roofs of rough timber. Each hut held 12 soldiers. They slept shoulder to shoulder on straw, huddling together for warmth, their breath freezing in the air above them. Food was scarce from the start. Supply lines were strained. Local farms had been stripped by years of foraging, and inflation made the continental currency nearly worthless. Soldiers boiled leather from their shoes to survive. One officer wrote bitterly, and I quote, "We are reduced to the very shadow of a regiment, starving, naked, and disheartened." End quote. Even Washington, known for his stoicism, was quite shaken. He wrote to Congress, "Our soldiers are without clothes to cover their nakedness, without blankets to lie upon, and often without food." He then added with quiet despair, "Unless some extraordinary supplies are obtained, the army must inevitably dissolve." End quote. Morristown tested Washington more than any battle ever could. Unlike Valley Forge, where Congress had rallied and spring brought hope, the Morristown winter brought nothing but silence. The Continental Congress was broke. Supply officers couldn't find wagons or willing farmers, and local civilians, weary of years of requisition and plunder, refused to give more without payment. To keep the army intact, Washington had to balance desperation with discipline. When mutiny broke among the Pennsylvania and Connecticut troops, men demanding food and back pay, he walked a tightrope between punishment and sympathy. At one point, 2 mutineers were sentenced to death for threatening their officers. Washington ordered the execution carried out by their own fellow soldiers, a grim reminder of the cost of defiance. But afterward, he quietly pardoned others, understanding that their rebellion came not from disloyalty, but from hunger. Even as the army's rations dwindled, Washington refused to let discipline collapse. "We must," he told his officers, "bear up under every distress." His calm, his endurance, and his ability to maintain moral authority in that frozen misery might be the single greatest example of his leadership in the entire war. Not all of the endurance of Morristown, however, belonged to Washington and his generals. The women who followed the army, the camp followers, played a vital role in keeping the troops alive. They cooked, washed, and patched clothing, often sharing in the same deprivation. Local New Jersey residents, too, supported the cause in small but vital ways, smuggling food, providing medical care, and offering warmth to the sick. Then there was Washington's aides, like Alexander Hamilton, writing letters late into the frozen nights, appealing to Congress for aid and chronicling the slow unraveling of the Army's supplies. Hamilton later described the winter in Morristown as, and I quote, "a scene of want and woe scarcely to be paralleled." End quote. Amid the despair, Washington never lost sight of the larger goal, to hold the army together until spring. When snow finally began to thaw in March of 1780, reinforcements arrived with wagons of supplies from New England. The soldiers began to rebuild. In April, Washington received unexpected news. Lafayette had returned from France with word that the French reinforcements, ships, men, and money were on their way. For the first time in months, Washington allowed himself a smile. The alliance with France, forged years earlier, was finally bearing fruit. The army had survived its darkest winter, and now, for the first time in a long time, that tide seemed ready to turn. Today, when people speak of Washington's leadership, they usually recall Valley Forge. But Morristown was even worse. The winter was colder, the food scarcer, and morale lower. Yet through it all, Washington never lost his sense of duty or restraint. He did not abandon his men, he did not surrender. He led by quiet example, steady, disciplined, and unwavering. The History Brief. The following comes from Paul F. Bowler Jr. and John Georges. They never said it. Let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette. If the average American knows anything about French history, which is doubtful, he knows that Marie Antoinette said those words. If the peasants didn't have bread to eat, they could just eat cake. But the remark, according to Columbia University historian Jacques Bourzoon, is an old chestnut, current long before the French queen was ever born. In his Confessions, written in 1778, French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote, and I quote, "At length I recalled the thoughtless saying of a great princess who, on being informed that the country people had no bread, replied, 'Then let them eat cake.'" End quote. This was several years before Marie Antoinette is supposed to have tossed off her unfeeling remark. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show a mighty success. If you're enjoying what you hear and you like the show and you would like to help me out a little bit with its production, you can always donate a few dollars to Buy Me Coffee at buymecoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free at patreon.com. Both specific links are found on my website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.